One, has this ever happened to you? I was once dropped in a breakout room for what was supposed to be an individual reflection exercise, and no one told us that. I found myself with three other strangers, some with their cameras on, some cameras off, and it was very awkward. We were like, what are we supposed to be doing together? And we just had to figure it out and did the exercise independently, silently for those 10 minutes that we were in the breakout room. The As we think about ourselves as trainers, we obviously do not want that kind of experience for our participants. Breakout rooms themselves tend to have a bad reputation, but it's not the format that's the problem. It's almost always what happens or what doesn't happen in the setup before sending people to breakout rooms or breakout groups if we're in person. Today, our podcast is to figure out how we can effectively set up those breakout rooms so we don't create that kind of negative experience. So, welcome everyone to our Let's Skill Up trainer table. I am Karie Albarat, joined by my partner in crime, Charles Fellingham. Hey, Charles.
Hello.
And we're the co-founders of Let's Skill Up. And today we're talking about that core challenge that we tend to have as trainers, right? How do we set up breakout rooms effectively so that when participants get into them, they don't say, what are we supposed to do again?
I think it's one of the must-nevers of training, sending people into a breakout room without clear instructions of what they're supposed to do.
Right.
And oftentimes, it doesn't fail because the format's weak. It fails because the facilitators sometimes treat them as a break time. Oh, good, I'm sending them off into a breakout room for an activity. I can just let them work. They probably won't want me in the room anyway, so we'll just let them work out. There's so many
I'll
reasons
check
why.
my email real quick. I'll
Right,
check my facilitator guide.
right, my texts. How much time do I have? Oh, yeah. That's just a must never for a trainer. And so it's important that we make sure, because we established this, Carrie, in an earlier podcast, that the way training is transferred effectively is to give people content so they can try it out. Well,
Mhm.
guess what? They're in the breakout room trying it out. And so it's so important for training to transfer, for you to have demonstrated how they're supposed to, what their roles are, what a successful breakout is going to be like, what their expectations are. If there's any slides that gives them clearer instructions, they need to have that either in the room or take a snapshot before they go into the room. Because you're not just sending people to different rooms, you're sending them away, um, and everything that you didn't make explicit, that goes with them into the room. And so you've got to give them some really clear instructions. There's some traps. But let's identify what those are, because I think it's important that we do. Uh, Sometimes we just give instructions once. Oh, they heard me. They should be satisfied with that.
That
There's
should
no
be good
written
enough.
backup. Yeah, off they go. And then if you find yourself in the room and they're going, I'm not really sure what we're supposed to be doing. Hey, that's on you. That's not on them.
Mhm.
You have ample opportunity before they go in the room. Make sure they know what their roles are so that everybody knows who goes first, or what the expectations are for everybody in the room, if it's individual work or if it's work where they're talking to each other. And so there should be a shared asset, at least a very strong setup at the beginning before they go in the room. And then an acknowledgement. I like to do this in virtual sessions. If everything is clear in terms of what you'll be doing in the breakout room, just give me an indication in chat. Just say let's go, or good, or okay. Let
Give
me
a
know it's
thumbs up.
yeah. And that
Hmm.
way you get at least an affirmation that it's clear. You've got to have at least that. So make sure they know about the timing, and go in the room and check. Make sure the instructions are clear, and not you don't necessarily have to make comments to what they're saying, but just be available. Because a breakout room isn't a break for facilitation. It's a facilitation at a distance, and it needs to have the same level of design because of that.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, just like you said earlier, the point of the breakout room is to give people the chance to practice, right? To try on whatever skill it is that we're working on developing. If they don't know exactly what they need to do that, then they're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
I talked about my experience earlier as a participant. As a trainer, I've committed many of these traps, or I've fallen into many of these traps. I
Me
remember
too.
this one session. I know we all do it, right? It's
Right.
natural for us. And this one session that I had, it was a leadership training. And we were doing my infamous three-headed coach, where one person is the coachee, two people are the coaches. They work together to coach the coachee. And of course, I was explaining how to do this in the main room. I even demoed how to do it. And I said, okay, everything is clear, right? Let's go into the breakout rooms. We'll have two people be the coach, one person be the coachee. You'll have a few minutes to do this. And I launched the breakout rooms. Then, of course, I jumped in. I didn't use it as a break. At least I didn't fall into that trap that time. I jumped into the breakout rooms, and the first one that I jumped into, it was not going well. We were 2 minutes in, and still they were saying, what were we supposed to do? So who
Mm.
needs to play what role? What are we talking about here? And I
Oh
realized
no.
that I had committed so many of these traps or fallen into so many of these traps. And I realized really what I needed to have done was all of the things that you said earlier, Charles, was give people an asset that clearly stated what the task was, help people determine what their roles were. So who were the coaches, who was going to be the coachee. At the very least, the person whose name falls first in the alphabet will be the coachee.
Right.
Set a timekeeper and give them exactly how much time they would have in the breakout rooms, ask for questions or ask if everything was clear. So from that point on, I decided I'm going to take more time to make sure that my breakout rooms are set up well, that I plan them effectively, and that I have a handout, or at the very least, I type in the chat what those instructions are, just real quick, right? Or I have a participant do it and then use that as a way to confirm that everything is clear. So the key thing, though, is it's not about the instructions that I gave. It's about getting them to stop depending on their memory when they get into the breakout room,
Right. Right.
giving them what they need to make the most of their time and truly practice those skills that we're trying to get them to practice. So
Yeah.
let's build up what this can look like.
Yeah. I like step-by-step kind of
Mhm.
methodologies. When I send people into the room, before I send people into the room, I'll say, okay, the first thing you need to do when you get into the breakout room is pick a group leader or pick a spokesperson or pick a scribe, someone to take notes so that they know exactly what to do first. And then for 12 minutes, you'll have a conversation. The notes keeper is taking notes and will be speaking. That will be the spokesperson for the group when we come back out.
Nice.
So design the room first so they know exactly what to do, who's doing what, and what success looks like. And so when you're building it out, a handout, a shared asset, as we like to say, with those clear instructions on it. I mean, sometimes we'll get material that we're delivering, and the instructions won't be clear. I take the liberty to change it, and I'll make it clearer. So if it's not clear to you, it's not going to be clear to them.
Very
And
true.
look at it from the participant's point of view when you've got a shared asset to make sure that you understand it from their optics. And then run the room. Make sure the groups are on track, give them broadcasts, send out timing notifications, be sure to pick a spokesperson, remind them of things that are essential. When we come back to the main room in 5 minutes, here's what we'll do. So you have the opportunity to send broadcasts, do that. And there are times when you even can identify who the groups are before they go into the room. When you set up the breakouts, you can put in chat, here's what the groups are, so you know who's in the room with you, which is a good thing to do as well. After close the loop, what did each group produce? Now, when you ask people to do something, you should, in the debrief, allow them to do that.
Hmm.
Sometimes time doesn't permit you to have every group speak out. So just say, I'm gonna look for two groups who would like to be first, or I'd like for the note taker to put your group's notes in the chat, and let's
Nice.
just speak to that. And sometimes that saves time when we need to do that for sure.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, those are just some essentials before, opening the room. Make sure that it's really clear about what they're supposed to be doing. If a group gets stuck and you're not there to catch it, it's not bad luck. That's a missed check-in plan, right? So be sure to check in with the groups, and often, just to make sure that you're a presence and they know you're there to answer any questions that they.
Exactly. I think about the importance of setting up the why, right? Both before, during, and after the breakout rooms. There has to be a reason why we had them do the thing that we asked them to do. And that's where that wrap up at the end, the debrief. I love the idea of putting their notes in the chat or their takeaways in the chat to make sure that we essentially hold the group accountable, right? And explain we did this. And at the very least, we're asking you to report back so that there is a closing of the loop here. People don't say, so why did we jump into that breakout room just now? We don't want them hanging on that question.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And if when you've had a success is when they come back out and they're prepared to share their notes, they're prepared to share their outtakes from the discussion. And this is where when you're leaning in the groups during while they're in the activity, and if they need a little more time and you have it, it's time well spent. They like to be interactive in breakouts where they may not be so interactive in a live session. So give them the extra time if you can afford it
Hmm.
uh, in those.
Exactly. Charles, you made me think of the 70-20-10 rule, right? Which
Mhm.
there are many opinions about the 70-20-10 rule, but basically what it says is 10% of adult learning happens effectively with actually learning from content, right? It could be a
Yeah,
presentation or it could be reading through something. 20% happens through social learning. So by doing something, talking, discussing with others, practicing with others, then 70% happens in actual real skill practice or on the job. So the closer we can simulate that through breakouts, get that social learning, get that 70% on the job or real practice, real world learning, bring that into the training room through those breakouts, and that will make our trainings much more effective.
it is. And you'll see it in the surveys at the end. They'll oftentimes say, I'm glad I had a chance to talk with some of the people in the room and really share experiences. That was so helpful.
Exactly, exactly. So we've talked about a lot, Charles. What would you say are three things that we need our trainers to know?
Yeah, set up the room well. Make sure the instructions are clear and that they're written down and people can see them and review them, and that people know what they're supposed to do, and both before, during, and after the breakout session. And what that does, when they feel comfortable going in the room, that everything's clear, they're going to have the best outcome from the training. And reward them with all the things that we do when somebody says debriefs the debriefs the group's discussion. Say, let's show some love to that person and use the reactions or whatever to do that to flood the zone, as I like to say.
Blood
They
the
like to do
zone.
that. They like to show appreciation. I think that's the last thing. It's really reward them for being really interactive and successful.
Love it. Love it. So, the next time you send people into the breakout rooms, ask yourself one question first. If I weren't in the room, would I know exactly what to do? Would it be clear to me? If the answer is no, then we know that we need to do a little bit more to make sure that everything is clear to have a proper breakout room set up. Thanks everyone for listening to the Let's Skill Up trainer table. If this resonated with you, feel free to share it, come back to it, re-listen to it, re-watch it, and visit us at letskillup.com. We have plenty of additional tips and tricks there to help upskill your training. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. We will see you next time.
Bye now.